So this is one of my last days in Vancouver before I start heading back home to Swansea. So I'm just gonna take a walk downtown of a couple things I need to do. And yeah, if there's anything interesting to show you, I'll show you. But I'm just going for a walk. I had a great time, visited my cousins. They're one's in their 90, and the other one's in her 80s, so they're getting up there in age. And I came and seen some friends, people I haven't seen for a very long time, that I want to go and visit when I get down to the city. Hello. So someone just fed these pigeons some rice, and they're literally right beside me here. Beautiful green colors on their neck. They won't let me get too close, but I mean, they're trusting enough that I'm able to get that far away before they bugger off. It's kind of cool. And here I am leaving Chinatown, corner of Main and East Pender. I'm gonna walk up East Pender because my cousin, where I'm staying, lives up in a condo up at East Pender. And here I am walking through Strathcona in Vancouver, BC. The neighborhood where my cousin lives, where I'm staying. And according to my cousin, he said all these buildings are heritage buildings, over 100 years old, and they were built by slave labor, Chinese slave labor, this whole area. And if you could pull up the records of what the original paint color was for the building, the city will pay for the paint, but not the painter to repaint the building, which is kind of neat. And I'm getting closer to where I'm staying. And this is the condo complex where I'm staying. My cousin owns the largest condo up in the corner, up there to the right, way off on the far side, top floor. And you have to huff it all up all these stairs. I don't know how he does it. He's 91 years old. And this building was once a Jewish synagogue. And these are the stairs I was talking about. I have to go all the way up to the 4th floor. And it's a very narrow staircase going all the way up. And then I have to go down to the very end of this hallway to get to my cousin Bob Poutt's home, condo in Vancouver, BC. And this is my cousin Bob Poutt's condo on the top floor. And usually when I come to Vancouver, I come and visit my cousin. He's out and about right now. I just got in. And this grand piano was carried all the way up those narrow stairs, I'm told. And then all these beautiful paintings are done by my cousin Bob Poutt's adopted son Ron. And I'm told that I asked Ron last time I visited my cousin Bob Poutt a couple years ago if he could do a portrait of me, because you could see some of the portraits he does are spectacular. And I'm told he whipped together a portrait of me over the past couple days. So I'm going to buy a portrait of myself off my cousin Ron Poutt. Look at these beautiful works of art.
He's been my investment banker for the past 5 years, and he's the best there is. 2 weeks ago, we began buying stocks in Holiday Inn. He was selling just at, how much? 50 cents? I could have made must be $50. As of the morning, and Ellen told me I owe just over 1 million shares, or slightly more than 4% of the company. The stocks closed Friday at $65 a share mostly. Also says, because word is out on the street that I've been a big buyer, and there's speculation I'm planning to run at the company. I'm planning.
So my cousin Bob Pout's oldest son, Ron Poutt, is a painter, and I asked him to do this portrait of me the last time I visited, and he finally did it, and I think it's really cool, and it's pretty spot on to what I look like. And this is me with the portrait. Pretty cool. I like it. So you're gonna notice in my interviews with my elder cousins that I have a little bit of a facial tic that you probably haven't seen in most of my videos because you only get to see little clips of me. But that's something I've had to deal with most of my life. I control it with magnesium, and I was, especially in my interview with my cousin Bob Poutt, you'll see I'm not looking directly at the camera, I'm looking at him. It's just what I am conditioned to, is looking at a person, not the camera, when I'm talking to them. So my neck got a bit strained there and started to cause a bit of a facial tic. That's just part of my life, and feel free if you need to make a mockery of it. It's not going to bother me none. It's just me being genuinely me, and I feel like in these videos you just have to be genuinely yourself, and so I'm just being open and honest. That's what's going on, if you see that. And yeah, and when I have enough magnesium in my body, it doesn't seem to happen so much. But yeah, that's what you're going to notice. Just pay no attention to it and enjoy the interviews. Hello everybody, Roger here again, and I'm here with my cousin Bob Poutt. And Bob Pout's been a really influential person in my life. I met Bob when I was 13 years old. He came up to Swantila and met the family with cousins from Finland, Esa and Raja Rantahaiga. And they are significant people because they wrote a book back in 1999 on the Ristimäki Hertua Pouttu genealogy, which is what we are descended from. And if you study the Ristimäki Hertua Pouttu genealogy, there's several lineages, and my family and my cousin Eileen are from line 1, and Bob Poutt is from line 2 of the Ristimäki Hertua Pouttu genealogy. Now, I used to be pen pals with Bob Poutt throughout my teen years, and then as soon as adult life came around, things got busy, but I always stayed in touch with Bob, and every now and then I'd come down and pay Bob a visit, and he's always been a gracious host. And so we're just gonna chit chat about Pouttu genealogy and our lives, and yeah, we'll go from there. So how about you tell me about growing up in Enumclaw?
Life in Enumclaw. Well, first of all, Enumclaw is at the base of Mount Rainier, so that gives you some idea of where it is located. It's in King County, so it belongs to Seattle, the richest city in the state of Washington. And what was life? First of all, Enumclaw is a First Nation name. I'm not sure what it means, but perhaps something about evil spirit or something of that nature. It was a logging, basically a logging community. It was a community made up of immigrants, primarily from Europe, and also heavy from England and Scandinavia. Probably the Swedes and the Norwegians were dominant. We Finns were not, no, we were more over in Pierce County in an area that we called Kontula Stumpland. And I don't know what else I could tell you about Enumclaw. It was certainly a wonderful place to grow up. We had a lot of freedom there, and
you were an only child, yeah?
I was an only child, yes, and so therefore I was an adult at 7 years of age.
Yeah, and so your family had a mine.
Yes, my father had the Queen Coal Mine, but that was located in Pierce County, not King County, in a place called Wilkeson, Washington. And Wilkeson at one time was a booming community back in the early 1900s. And coke ovens were there. We were making coke, shipping it into Tacoma by rail, and then it was shipped on to Japan and other countries. The Queen Coal Mine was really a Jippo outfit that my father was the head of, and most of my mother's family, the men, worked for my dad in the Queen Coal Mine. It was sold, I believe, in 1942 during the war years. Dad sold the Queen Coal Mine, and it was closed down. But there are records. If you look it up on the internet, you will get the records of the Queen Coal Mine, Wilkeson, Washington.
And what was your father's name?
My father was Matthias Emil Pouttu, but he didn't go by Matthias. He went by the Emil. And no, I rarely heard him say anything about Matthias. But that's a common Finnish name that's in our genealogy. You'll see many Matthias Emils.
Yeah. There's a Matti Pouttu that lives in Sointala that you mentioned. Your father might have been named
After him, I would think so. Don't know, that's my guess.
Now the two lineages, the line 1 and the line 2. So from line 1, I'm descended from Mikko Hertua, and Bob Poutt's line 2 is descended from Juho Pouttu, and they were brothers. And there was 8 kids altogether living in the Rinta-Pouttu house?
Oh, more than that.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. Yeah.
Well, the Rinta-Pouttu house, first of all, they purchased a part of the Hertua house.
And this is back in Finland.
This is back in Finland in the Ylistaro area. And then they purchased the Rinta-Pouttu place at Poutula, which is still part of Ylistaro, but there is such a place as Poutula, the place of Pouttu. And Mikko and his wife Anna Luoma and Juho, the brother, and his wife Anna Olila lived together. And Mikko had maybe 10 kids, and Juho had about 7. So there's 17 children and 4 adults living in the Rinta-Pouttu house.
Yeah.
So I imagine that as a child, you got out of there in your teens as fast as you could, because it's a pretty crowded situation. Yeah. And then, in addition, the Rinta-Pouttu had the farmland. They had a creamery where they made butter, and they had the forest lands in the back for winter work. And so they hired a lot of people. Now, if you worked at the Rinta-Pouttu house as a hired hand, you simply took the last name Pouttu. There are many, many Pouttus, are not blood Pouttus at all to us. They simply had worked for us.
Yeah, yes. So that was a common practice in Finland. So
at
that time period, if you worked on a farm, you would take the surname after the farm, and then if you moved to another farm, then you would take that surname
as owners. And so you see, we were once Ristimäki, and then went to Hertua, and then went to Pouttu. And it's interesting because here we have the line 1, the Mikko line, and they kept the name even when they were living at the Rinta-Pouttu house. They kept the name Hertua. But my great grandfather, he took the name Pouttu instead of Hertua.
So how did Juho Pouttu end up in the United States, and then Mikko Pouttu would be my great-great-grandfather. And Mikko Pouttu had a son named Herman Pouttu, who was my great-grandfather. And my Herman Pouttu came to Sointala during the time of the Call of Incansa.
Yeah.
But why did Juho Pouttu go to the United States?
Well, there are two Juho Pouttus. There's Juho Pouttu, we've been talking about, who was my great-grandfather. But then there was his son, Juho Alfred Pouttu, and that's my grandfather. So Juho Alfred Pouttu came to the U.S., I believe, 6 times. Each time he came, he would bring another relative from the Hertua Pouttu clan, primarily from the Mikko or the Juho families. And some of these people remained in the United States and Canada. Others, no, they were here 2 years or so and said, that's it. They went back to Finland. And Juho Alfred got his U.S. citizenship in, I believe, Montana. I have his papers someplace in the den. And so when he went back to Finland, each time, 6 times, the kids who were born in Finland under Russian rule ended up being Americans because my grandfather, Juho Alfred Pouttu, was an American.
Yeah.
So my dad was born in Finland as an American citizen. It'd be very confusing.
Yeah, that is strange.
Yeah.
So the region the Pouttus come from is Pohjanmaa in Finnish, or South Ostrobothnia.
Yes.
And we're from, so let's talk about Isokiro and Uudestaro, and what's the significance between that and the Pouttu family?
Well, we have people living up and down that whole area, including Lapua, Seinäjoki, Uudestaro, Isokiro, maybe some even as far as Vasa. So you see, we're all in that Pohjanmaa, Ostrobothnia area. Ostrobothnia is the Swedish term for it. Pohjanmaa is the Finnish. And what was your question again?
Oh, I was just curious, what's the significance of Uudestaro and Isokiro in relation to the Pouttu Hertua family?
Okay, well, now you're going back into history. We got into the area because the Spoo family, he was in the liturgical or ministry estate, and came to Uudestaro, where he was an assistant. But the main minister died, and so you as an assistant in those days, it was your responsibility to marry the widow, which he did. So that is how we got started in the area. And yeah.
So in the Spoof family, we have Britta Stina Spoof.
Yes.
And she, I can't remember how far back she is, of a great-grandparent of mine, but she married into the Pouttu lineage.
Yes.
And the Spoofs were, let's talk about the Spoofs. Who were they?
Well, you'd have to go all the way back to Eric Spoov. At least that's as far as I've gone. I'm sure there's many Spoovs before Eric. They came from Sweden. I'm not sure where in Sweden. And Eric went to Turku Castle, and he was King Vasa gave him the appointment of being the clerk of Turku Castle. Now, that involved keeping accurate records and reporting to the king once a month what went on at Turku Castle. And so his children started getting involved in the military and buying up farms, and so Spoos became, leaders and high in the social economic status of Finland, and still are today. And Mikko Spoov, if you look up the what is it called, Roger? Blue something resort.
Oh,
Yeah. Anyway,
yeah.
it's currently a resort. He'll find exactly what it is. So the Spoo family is still involved, and this particular branch I'm talking about is involved in liquor. I don't know if it's vodka or maybe many different types of liquor.
Well, I'm looking this up.
Oh, he's got so many things written in a
I've
paper.
got so many things written out. We always go over history together. So, my other question, the club wars.
Yes.
Who was?
Well, there were two leaders of the club war, and you expect me to remember. The co-leader was Pouttu. The Pouttu, I do not believe, was our relative.
Okay.
At one time, we used to think he was, but I don't think he was a blood, our particular group of Pouttus.
Okay.
And something Ilka. What was Ilka's name? Anyway, Dr. Nolanma has written a folk operetta, I guess you'd call it, and it is performed every single summer in where? Seinäjoki, I believe, and it's about the club war. Well, the club war, the farmers, my dad used to say, well, if you have something to protect, you're going to go out and protect it. And the Swedish crown was trying to either tax them too much or take over their land or something. I don't know exactly what it was all about. But the farmers said, no way you're going to do this. And all they had was clubs to fight with and pitchforks. And so that was the club war. And Pouttu, he was sent down to Turku Castle. And according to my father, his tongue was cut out. Then he was brought back to Isokiro, to the old stone church, which was built by the Catholic regime. And there they hung him in the island. There's a river right behind the church, and that's where Pouttu came to an end anyway.
Is that the Kirjanjoki River?
No, I don't think it's the Kirin. No, that's not the Kirjanjoki. The Kirjanjoki runs right down through the center of the farmlands, and because it floods, it brings a lot of silt, and the farmlands are very rich soil for the growing of grain. So a lot of grains are grown in that particular area to this day.
Okay. So, one question too. What does Pouttu mean in the Ostrobotnian dialect?
Well, that's a very good question. I'm not sure what it means. I would again go to my dad, the source of all knowledge on such things. And Dad said, well, it probably is a young colt. And then he would turn to me and smile and said, a horse's ass.
Yeah.
So that was my father.
Your dad had a nickname for my great-great-grandfather too, Mikko Pouttu. What was that?
Should I say it?
Oh, yeah, why not?
Well, Dad called him Mikko the Dicko. Now, the reason he did is because Mikko ended up having two wives. His first, Anna Luoma, passed away, and he had a number of children with her. Now, I don't know if she died in the last childbirth or exactly what happened, but then he married the
niece.
The niece, yes, another Luoma, and had many more children. Yeah. So he had a lot of children compared to his brother, who was my great-grandfather. Juho did not have that many kids. He had only about 7, and that was so.
Yeah, so my great-great-grandfather, Mikko Pouttu, married Anna Juliana Luoma. Yes. And then had Herman Pouttu. Yeah. So your question, Arctic Blue Resort.
Arctic Blue
Resort. Kontiolahti.
Yeah, good. Thank you for that. Look that up and you'll see something about it. It's a very interesting resort, and I think it must be open by now.
So let's talk about the buildings. So you said the significance of how many windows in a building meant how rich the family was.
Yes.
So
in Österbothnia and Pohjanmaa, the buildings, the architectural design is something that has been taught to young guys from the very beginning. of life. And to this day, they still follow the same architectural design to build these homes. Usually, the home has 4 windows downstairs, and if it has 6 windows, it means you're a little bit richer. If it has 8 windows, whoopee, you're getting up there now on the social economic status bracket. So all you have to do is drive around. Of course, in those days they didn't drive; they walked around, or they're on the buggy or the horse or something. And you could simply say, "Well, look at that! They've got 8 windows, and we've only got 4 windows." And
Yeah. Was it because the windows were very expensive? Or?
I don't think so. I think it was just in the
status.
status design of some sort. And then the other thing that was connected to that was that you painted your home red. So if you come from North America and you go there and you see these strange looking homes that look like barns to you, to the North American eye, and you see them painted red, you say to yourself, really, why are they all painted red with white around the windows? And why are some with 4 windows and some with 6 and some with 8? What does it mean? Then every once in a while, you'll come to a yellow house, beautiful yellow with some white. Yeah. The minute you see that, then you can say to yourself, social economic high class.
So a yellow and white building was a very important status symbol.
And also, as my father would say, in those days it probably was a Swede Finn. They were in charge for 600 years, and so we had many Swede Finns. And the other thing Dad would say is, we have no Swedenness whatsoever. Well, when I did genealogy,
that's false.
That's absolutely false. Yeah. Sorry, Dad.
He probably just didn't like to acknowledge that he had Sweden. No. So going back to the Swede, so spoofs. So through Britta Stina Spoof's genealogy, if you go further back, we'll get to a man named Erik Ångerman Sörsel. So what's the significance of Mr. Sörsel?
Well, now you're going way back.
Oh, I'm going quite a 14 generations.
Yes, way back. Yeah. Okay. So Sörsel, the last name was not really Sörsel, is Ångerman or something?
Erik Ångerman.
Yeah, Erik Ångerman. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So again, back to King Vasa. He decides that the Finnish troops needed to be introduced to pickled herring. And the Finnish military, they found pickled herring to be not the best thing to eat. And they didn't call it pickled herring. They called it sour herring. And so Sörsel means sour herring. So he got the name Sörsel. Now Sörsel had 3 daughters. And we come, both Roger and myself, Mikko and Juho, we come through the Anna Sörsel. So in a genealogy, one of the largest ones ever done in Finland is done on the Sörsel family. And Roger, you tell me now that there's a new one that's come out in 1969 or something?
A new copy of the Sörsel genealogy book?
Yeah.
I believe so. Yeah, there is a newer version of it, but I think it's digital. I did order a copy of the Sörsel genealogy. Unfortunately, I didn't receive it in time for this trip down to Vancouver here to visit you. But that's another excuse to come down and see you again. But I will have a copy of the Sörsel genealogy. I'm looking forward to it. So,
yes.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you're going to find Mannerheim's name in there.
So
you're going to find people like Sibelius in there. There are all kinds of folks.
Yeah, so that we're distantly related to Mannerheim.
Very distantly.
Sibelius. Let's talk about who they were. So who was Mannerheim?
Mannerheim was the leader of the whites. Unfortunately, we had a civil war between the Reds and the White Finns, and Mannerheim was brought in to be the leader of the whites, and we still have old-time Finns. I mean, I'm 91, but I'm talking about other Finns that are my age who remember what it was like, this Red and White War. And they still, either you are a red or you are a white, one or the other. And I used to say to Dad, well, what are we? Are we reds or are we whites? And Dad would smile and say, no, not really. We're pink. We're in the middle somewhere. And I thought, well, that's a nice place to be. And I've always thought of Sointala people as being pink socialists,
Yeah.
I don't think you guys are reds. I think Victoria, the newspaper and whatnot, in the early days of Kurika, who was the leader of the Sointala.
Colvin Council.
Yeah. That they would, the newspaper and the British labeled it as communists and reds and no.
No, we're not communists.
No,
we're definitely
no way, no
socialists.
way.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So, who is Sibelius?
Sibelius was, of course, the great Finnish composer. Wrote a number of symphonies. And then there was a long break where he didn't write. This happens. Any of you artists out there know that there is a period of time, whether you are a writer, a painter, a musician, everything might close down on you, and you just have a long period of rest, and then again you perform. Yeah. Well, Sibelius was going to write that last big symphony, and he did write it. We keep hearing, but then for some reason he sat before the fireplace and he just threw it in the fireplace and burnt the thing up.
Oh my God.
And so we've never ever heard his last great number, what it was like. Because of, I can't think who the critic was in New York. I think his last name was Downs. Anyway, because of him, Downs just thought that Sibelius was just the greatest. So he introduced to North America Sibelius's music. And so we can be very grateful to Downs for doing that. And Sibelius was offered a position here in the U.S. And he did come to visit, but he was not enamored with the U.S. lifestyle. He was very happy to go back to Finland.
So we are distantly related through Eric Ångerman Sersel to both Mannerheim and Sibelius. And Mannerheim was one of the leaders of Finland.
Yes, so the white.
He was the leader of Finland.
He was the leader of the whites. Of the whites. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I see. Okay. So what is? Tell me about the whites and the reds. What's the difference between the two?
Well, the reds. You see, we were 100 years under Russian rule, and so if you go in the beginning, 300 years of Catholic rule. And the Catholics built the old stone churches. So if you ever go to Finland, you see the old stone churches. That was they were built by the Catholic regime. And the Catholics also introduced us to trade throughout nations and so forth. So and they built the libraries, and so that they did good infrastructure things for us. And then along comes King Vasa, and we all once were under Sweden for 600 years. We're under Swedish rule. And then finally Sweden loses its war with Russia, and Britta Christina Spoov, we mentioned before, wakes up in the morning, and guess what? She's under Russian rule. So we were under Russian rule for 100 years. Well, then when Russia went kaput, we declared independence. But at that time, in declaring independence, some people said, well, let's have a king. Let's get a prince out of Germany. So they did contacts. I don't know who he was, and he was going to become maybe the leader. And others said, no. What we want to do is we want to hang on to Russia. Now, why did they say that? Because they had positions. They were working in Russia. They had good pay. They had, they didn't want to lose it. Why would anybody want to lose, their social economic position? Yeah. And then the whites said, no. We don't want to be under kingship. We don't want to be under Russian rule. We want to get out. We want to be an independent nation, and we want others to recognize our independence. Well, we got into a civil war over that, unfortunately. And that's what the whole
And
written.
that carries on to this day. That's
Well, yes,
rather
but
quick.
most of us will be buried pretty soon. that,
Yeah.
that nonsense, the younger generation, well, they can read about it, but it won't be what it. No.
So you've been to Finland. And
Several times,
You've
yes.
met multiple people, and you've been to several different family reunions. You've even organized a family reunion here in the city of Vancouver at UBC. So let's talk a bit about your life. So tell me about yourself, Bob.
So
Yeah.
way back when we said I was only kid, which is true.
Yeah.
And early in life, my parents, both being immigrants, said, you will only speak English. Nothing else will be spoken by you except English, because you must become an Americano. You must look like them, talk like them, walk like them, think like them, speak like them. And that's it. No, none of this foreign business. And that is a policy of the United States of America. That was put in many, many years ago by Teddy Roosevelt, I believe. And so you still have that hanging around, raw American. Well, Canadian, very different story than that, you see. We have none of that, what I would call nonsense here in Canada. Your question again was?
Oh, well, we're on the same topic. So we did lose our language, because my mother always says that when we came, they gave up their language and their religion, and that we also gave up our surnames too. They were
That's
forced
right.
into anglicizing. So, like, for instance, we're from Pouttu genealogy, and on my side, my mother is her name's Poulton, but because when my grandfather Mikko Pouttu went into the war, even Herman Pouttu, when he was in the war, they took on tell me the story, what happened there, how he became a Poulton.
We have different stories on this, of course.
Yeah.
My story from the Juho side is that when Mikko Pouttu was in Sointala and had himself a job with the lumber company there, he got his first check and it said Poulton, Poulton on it, Mikko Poulton. And he said, no, it's not Poulton, it's Pouttu. And of course he's speaking to an English person, and the English person, Pouttu, it's a very strange sounding name. And see, when I'm pronouncing it with an explosive P, Pouttu, it's not even that way. There is no B in the Finnish alphabet. And so Pouttu comes out more like Botu. It sounds like a B, but anyway, to this Englishman, it was Poulton. So when the next check comes, Mikko looks at it, Poulton. Mikko says, "Shut your mouth, Mikko.
Yeah.
I got a job. Don't rock the boat. I'm Poulton from here on."
Yeah.
And that's how.
Yeah, and unfortunately,
That's how your mother is a Poulton.
Yeah, and unfortunately, they anglicized our names, and our culture was lost.
Yeah, and I see
To
that's
try
how,
and fit in with this society, and
that's how I became a Poutt, Poutt.
yeah.
And my
So how did that?
Well, I don't know how that happened. According
Yeah.
to Dad, the school teacher did it, but I sort of think that
Yeah.
when Grandpa got those citizenship papers in Montana, again he probably said Pouttu, and they said great Poutt, Poutt.
And also in and around the 1920s, there was like around 3,000 Finns in Canada that were deported out of. What was going on there?
Well, first of all, the educational level of Finns has always been very, very high. So we're talking about people who could read, write, and think. And the other thing is, of course, we had unions in Finland, and it was very strong. And we had cooperatives and all those kinds of things. So when they got here, working in the coal mines, they're going to establish a union. Well, the owners of the coal mine were not interested in unions. So I don't know this for sure, but I think they probably contacted the RCMP and found some way. to ship these rabble-rousers back to Finland where they belonged. And so off they went to Finland. Mm-hmm. Now you have the same kind of thing in the United States. And the senator, maybe it's White, I can't remember what, Senator White or whatever it is, but you can look him up. It's either Minnesota or Wisconsin, but let's say Minnesota. He said the Finns are Mongolians. Mm-hmm. They're a Mongolian race, so they shipped a whole bunch of these Finnish Mongolians back to Finland to get rid of them. We're not Mongolians, by the way. And now the question I want to go back to is, well, what did you do, Bob, after your growing up years? Well, I heard also you will go to the university. You will go to university. So I started saving money early in life to go to university. And I had musical talent and ability, so I had great dreams about how I was going to be in the musical world. And I took piano lessons and voice lessons and so forth and so on, and was going to become an oratorio singer. Ended up going to the University of Washington. But love, at that time, my girlfriend went to Spokane to school, and I would not go to Whitworth College in Spokane. She would not come to the University of Washington. And so the following year, we compromised and ended up in Ellensburg at a teacher training university. And that's how I became a teacher. Never, ever wanted to be a teacher in my life. Never, never, ever. Yeah. Well, I ended up being a teacher, and so did my wife, Margaret. And then I was offered a principalship in Denver, Colorado, and I thought, well, yeah, I'd like to go down and see what it's like, and accepted it, and went down there and became a principal. And then in the American Association of Mental Deficiency and their journal, it said there was an opening at New Westminster in British Columbia for Director of Training and Education at the Woodland School, and that it was now open to non-British subjects. I said, well, whoopee, I'm not a British subject, I shall apply. And lo and behold, I heard from them, and they flew me up here, and I was interviewed and accepted the job, and there I was at the Woodland School for Mentally Handicapped as the Director of Training and Education. Then there was visitors from the University of British Columbia, Dr. David Kendall and Dr. Brian Clark, who were in the special ed department, and they came to see the programs that we had put in place at Woodlands. And then at the end of the meeting, Dr. Kendall said he would be very pleased and honored if I would consider an application as an assistant professor at the University of British Columbia. Well, I was floored. I mean, as I told you, my first year at university, I was on probation every single quarter. I don't know. I was absolutely goofy that first year. And I would be hauled into the dean's office, and he would tell me, this is it, Poutt. If you don't smarten up and bring these grades up and start studying, you're going to be out of here. We're kicking you out of this place. Well, I guess the light did dawn by the second year, because I started working a little harder and getting better grades. So I was really worried when I met Dean Scarf at the Faculty of Education. He was head of the Faculty of Education at UBC. I kept thinking, as I told you, Roger, what is he going to say about the first year when he sees that transcript? And he looked at the transcript, and he looked up at me, and he smiled, and he said, looks like it was a hell of a good year, Bob. And he passed right on. And I to the next year, I felt so good. Anyway, I got the position, and spent all those years at UBC.
And how long have you held this condo?
Well, we walked into this condo when Margaret was in the hospital with a broken something. I don't know what it was. She was always breaking a leg or an arm or some darn thing. But anyway, there she was. And I came here to park the car, because next door is the Strathcona Elementary School, and I was on a practicum around to see one of my grad students teaching. And I looked and it said for sale, and I thought, well, that's an interesting looking building, and discovered that this building was the First Orthodox Jewish synagogue in the city of Vancouver, and had recently been redone into condos, 12 of them, for Expo 86. And this was 1991, April the 19th, 1991, and I'm now 91 years of age. So I've been here since April the 19th, 1991.
Oh, wow. And tell the story about this grand piano that you... How did you get that in this building? Yeah.
Well, my mother's home, of course, being the only child, I inherited both my father's home and my mother's home in Washington State in Enumclaw. Mm-hmm. And I bought this piano, a grand piano, brand new. It's Korean made, Sojin from Korea, South Korea. And so for the things we brought over from my mother's estate was this piano. And also I was telling you that, I also brought this huge rototiller as part of my mother's estate. Well, my mother couldn't have, my mother was maybe 5 feet tall, size 3 shoes, and could have weighed all of 100 pounds at the most. A rototiller would have killed her. But so we got a lot of things that we snuck into Canada over the border. But the other thing that was interesting is that you had to make a list of every single thing that you were bringing. And in those days, when we came here in when would you come here? 1965. They would send a security guard, with the truck. And he stood there and checked off every single thing that was brought into your home. Yeah. I'm sure they don't do that anymore, but I found that an interesting feature, that the Canadians were going to make certain that I guess you didn't bring anything suspicious or extra or something.
How did you get it into the building, though?
Oh, well, there was 5 of us, and
the stairs, it's like he's on the top floor.
You explain, Roger, what these stairs
So he's on the top floor of this building. It's the largest condo. It's a beautiful place, and it's nice and quiet up here and very peaceful. And then as soon as you go outside, there's East Hastings, and it's very noisy, and you see the homeless and all that. But the way up the stairs, it's very narrow stairway, and he somehow got this grand piano.
Well, first of all, you can take the grand piano apart, and we took it apart as much as you could take it apart, but still it weighs an absolute ton. Okay. And on the first, you have all these turns, so you go up 3 steps and you have a landing. Yeah. And then 5 steps and a landing, and then you have to turn the thing and go 3 steps and a landing, and then you have to turn it and go another 7 steps.
All the way up 4 floors.
Yes, and you keep doing this until you get to the top. Yeah. Well, we went up the first 5 steps. That wasn't bad, and we turned, and when we turned, we got it stuck. And there's a window there, and I thought, oh my goodness, this thing is going to go right out of the window into the lawn. And so it was quite a task. We didn't want to tear the railing off or take the railing off a staircase, and we didn't want to scratch up the beautiful black lacquered grand piano. And so we finally got the thing maneuvered around. This is, by the way, in summertime, and it's very, very warm. And one guy had ropes around him and ropes around the piano. Yeah. That was scary. Anyway, the 5 of us managed to get the piano in here. Yeah. And then, of course, once we got it in, we had to rebuild it and put it together, and then get a tuner in to fix it up and whatnot. And good luck. And I look at it now and I say, well, when I sell this place, of course, I'll probably be gone, but whoever has to sell this, the kids, I don't know what they're going to do. You're going to have to smash over these windows and just take a crane out there. I don't know what they're going to do. So how about you tell me about Pouttu? Pouttu. Well, there was a company, and still exists in Toronto, that sold back tax land across Canada. And so in those days, you got a catalog from them. Not anymore, I don't think. Now everything probably is on the internet or something. But anyway, we subscribed to this catalog. So Margaret phoned me up at work. That's my wife. And she says, There's 320 acres in Prince George. I go, whoa, Margaret, don't talk Prince George. Nobody's going that far away from Vancouver. What in the world will we be doing up there? And she said, well, no, listen. 320 acres, and this is the price. Wow, is that true? Is that all it is? Are you sure? Yeah, and if you raise a certain percentage in 30 days, we'll take off another, I think it was $2,000. So another, okay. Give me the telephone number. I'm phoning Toronto. So I phoned Toronto and said, oh yeah, it's still available. And if you send us, this amount in 10 days time, in 30 days time, the land is yours. So I contacted my father because my dad always used to say, land is important. You must have land. So I said, Dad, okay, here's your chance. Could you loan us this amount of money? And he said, well, yeah, we have to think about that. And so we had a little talk over the telephone. And then hung up, and Margaret said, well, how did it go? I said, well, it went like it would go with my father,
Yeah.
You don't get a definite yes or no one way or the other.
Yeah.
And pretty soon the phone rang, and he said, well, you come down, and we'll talk about this. So we get down there into Enumclaw to see him. And Dad is, I knew he was interested because he'd put on a white shirt and a tie. Now, my father's a logger and never a white shirt and a tie, so I knew we were going to the bank. Well, the bank's going to close at 6 o'clock, but first we have to have a little bit of Mrs. Olson. That's what he called his coffee. So we sat there and we had Mrs. Olson, and then we had to have a bit of a pula, which is a Finnish sweetbread. And I was really getting anxious, and I said, well, Dad, the bank's going to close. Oh, no, they know I've got money there. And besides, we know the president, he's a good friend of mine. So we get to the bank, and the poor bank had to make this transfer to Toronto from American money to Canadian money and all this and that. I think that bank, I'm sure it was way past 6 o'clock. It must have been 6:45 by the time we were done with all of this.
Yeah.
But yes, we had purchased the property. But then we'd never seen the property. So I went to, sent to Victoria and got a photo, an aerial view photo. And that's all we had.
Yeah.
So taking the aerial view photo, 9-passenger station wagon, my father, Margaret, our 3 kids, Jesse, our foster kid, the cat and the dog. Away we go up to Prince George and to find the property. Well, that was an experience. We get to the Reed Lake Road, and the road is shut down. It's planked now with planking, mud everywhere. I got onto the planking, and I said to Margaret, well, if something comes at me, we're going to just keep going straight. They're going to have to back up. Well, along comes the farm truck loaded with hay, and I said, oh no, this farm truck is not backing up. We're backing up. So I backed up carefully on that planking, praying to God that I would not go off into the mud and on the side and whatnot.
Yeah.
And then I got down to Chamberlain Road, and I said, well, let's take Chamberlain Road. I get on Chamberlain Road, and we come to this fence with this young guy standing there with hundreds and hundreds of sheep, Finn sheep. So his name was Jerry, and I said to Jerry, well, is it possible that we could cross your property and come over there to get to the Alpierre Ferry Road, which would then get us back on the Reed Lake Road, which would get us going to the property. And, oh, yeah, but first you have to come in and have tea, and you have to meet Ma Pitcher, who is his mother. And anyway, the story goes on and on and on. We get to the end of the public road, and all we had before us was a logging road. Muddy, and a Jippo sawmill there run by Greengrass and his son. And I looked at that and I said, this station wagon can't get through this. There's no way we could get through this.
Yeah.
So we parked it, and Margaret said, well, she's not walking there with all these kids, the dogs and the cat and whatnot. She's staying in the station wagon. Dad and I got our boots on and started wading through the mud and walking and walking and walking. We finally get to where we thought the property because, you know, here we are just holding the aerial map. Anyway, we thought we had it. This is 1972.
Yeah.
And along comes a pickup truck. And the pickup truck stops and says, well, what are you guys doing way out here in the bush? And old Bob, me, I open my big mouth and say, oh, yeah, we just purchased the North Half of District Lot 8725.
Yeah.
This guy goes absolutely silent. Dad hits me in the side with his elbow, which I knew meant shut up. So I said no more.
Yeah.
And so this guy drove us out and back to the 9-passenger station wagon.
Yeah.
And Dad said, this son of a gun, he's stealing timber on your property.
Oh.
I said, well, how do you know that? He's stealing timber on your property. And that was that. That was the answer. Don't ask any more questions. Well, he was right. Johnson was stealing timber on our property. Mm-hmm. And he got some pretty nice timber. But boy, he got out of there fast once he found out that we were in there. Anyway, we've been there since 1972, and I go up, and we built a 15-acre lake, and we have cleared a 15-acre hayfield, and we built 2 cabins and 2 barns and roads and blah, 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 blah. Yeah.
Yeah,
And I go up in
every
May.
season, yeah.
Yeah, I go up in May and come back in August. And
yeah. And the lake is named Lake Melvin?
Lake Melvin. My middle name is Robert Melvin. Where my mother ever got that name, I don't know.
Yeah.
Robert Melvin Poutt. And so our 3 kids thought Melvin is the most hysterically funny name they've ever heard. So they had to name it Lake Melvin.
Oh, yeah.
And that's how it got named Lake Melvin.
So you spend almost half the year up in Prince George, and in the winter months you're down here in the city. Yeah. Yeah, up until spring. Yeah. I want to go back to the Pouttus one more time. What about Pouttu Makara?
Well,
that's the significance of that.
Yeah, there are 6 lines, or is it 7 lines? It's 7 lines, I believe.
7 lines, okay.
Yeah. Of Ristimäki Hertua Pouttus. And the last line is the Pouttu Makara group. And that would be under Lisa Pouttu. Oh. And her first husband died, and she married again Meänpää Pluki Pouttu. And they established Pouttu Makara, which was the largest independent family sausage company in Finland. Mm-hmm. But as I told Roger, I think it's been, as all things nowadays, it's been taken over. Yeah, but some large conglomeration has bought them out, and so. But they must have been in business for about 100 years. Yeah. Big red and white trucks driving around with Pouttu Makara on the side of it. So if you were in Finland, you would have. And I'm sure that the name is probably still around. So if you go there, enjoy some Pouttu Makara. So I'm going to, we're going to
bring this to a closing here. Is there anything you'd like to add?
Anything I'd like to add?
Yeah, because I think we covered quite a bit here.
Yeah,
I want to talk about the 5 groups, social classes in Finland.
Okay, not anymore, but at one time.
At one time,
at one time you had the aristocracy,
which is at the top.
And that's the top group of money people. Mm-hmm. But the aristocracy was not necessarily Finns. The aristocracy, a lot of them were German that came in to live in Finland because of whatever was going on in Germany at that time. Mm-hmm. And so you had many different nationalities coming into Finland. Of course, Swedish was in that too. And we had, with the Spoovs, we had a member of the aristocracy at that time. He was a Spoov. And then next you had all of the merchants, and those who were in business, and that was quite a large group. And then you had the religious group, or that isn't exactly what they call them, but anyway, this is all your ministers. Mm-hmm. Now, this was very important because you didn't move without the minister's approval. I mean, they gave you the passports, they collected the taxes, they administered the reading scores, they were everything. Mm-hmm. And so there's a high number of Finns who want nothing to do with the church because of their personal experience with different ministers. And now in our family, yes, we have a lot of people in the liturgical state.
Yeah.
Many, many, many. And then the last group was the farmers or the peasants or whatever you want to call them. And there's only about 10% of the Finnish group that own population that own farms. The rest of them didn't own anything.
Yeah.
They were at the mercy of all these other groups. Well, these kinds of divisions, not anymore. No, nothing like that. But they were there for my grandparents' time, yes.
And we come from like the Pouttu lineage, or would be the farm class, which was called peasants. But you can't think peasants the way the English term would be.
So,
it would be the landowners.
Yeah, on our tombstones you'll see that it'll say landowners.
Landowners.
Yes, because Ristimäki farm, Hertua farm, Pouttu farm. We were landowners, and as landowners at Poutula and church members, we set up in the front. Our family pews were in the front. Again, the whole social economic status business. You knew who the heck had the most land and the most money as to where they sat in the church.
Yeah.
What goofy systems. We don't have those anymore.
And then they intermarried with each other.
Oh,
So
yeah,
the Luoma family, you're not descended from the Luoma, but I would be descended from the Luomas, and they were quite powerful people as well, weren't they?
Yes.
Yeah.
So you look at it and you keep seeing these same names over and over and over, and you say, good Lord, this one married a cousin. And then when I was looking at my grandmother and my grandfather, as I looked at the genealogy, I was really surprised to find out they were cousins.
Yeah.
I mean, distant cousins, but yes.
Yeah.
And
same as in Sointala, there's Matti Pouttu, which is the brother of my great-grandfather Herman Pouttu. He married a cousin who was Matilda Hook, and actually the Hook name is another name for the spoof family. Yeah, and let's talk about the spoofs. So what is the spoof? Spoof is a bird, right? It's a curlew.
A spoof is a Swedish name. So immediately you realize these are Swede Finns by the last name. But if your name is Kuovi, Kuovi, Kuovi is a spoof, but it's a Finnish name for it. And then if you're a curlew, that's an English name. So we could be, and I could be a Bob Curlew, I could be a Bob. What did I say now? All of these, but anyway, and the same with Ristimäki. See, Ristimäki, we could be a Churchill, and Hertua means Duke. I don't know if anybody was a Duke. I don't know how the heck that name got there. Yeah. And so, like we said, Pouttu is just simply a cult. Yeah, that's pretty low down the ladder compared to these other these other interpretations. Yeah. And then we had, the great Finnish glassblower. I wrote to him, and he's passed away now. And so he did a spoof in memory of Britta Christina Spoof, our multiple great-grandmother. And then I bought, I think, 6 of those spoofs, birds, and gave one to Eileen Tuulos. She has one.
Yeah, I've seen it.
One to each one of our kids, and my cousin Janice and my cousin Karen, and so, yeah. And that bird is discontinued. It's no longer produced by Iittala Glass Company. Yeah.
Well, we've covered quite a bit here, and it's. I just want to say, like, I'm really glad I came down to see you, and.
Well, it was nice having you. He's been here for over a week, and we haven't had any arguments. We've lived in harmony, Sointala, the whole harmony thing, and And he's been the cook. All I have to do is eat. That's all I have to do. He cooks all the food. And not only did he cook the food, he brought the food, so what a deal.
Well, it's been great, Bob. Can I give you a hug?
Yes, you may. Okay. This is what my father would call kissin' cousins. He was always going on about kissin' cousins. And I would say to him, well, how are we related? Well, we're kissin' cousins.
Awesome. All right, Bob. Thank you for watching, and we'll stop it right there.
Okay, bye-bye. Magazine and that.
Oh, okay. So Bob is going to play me a piece written by one of our ancestors on the spoof side of the family. There were a couple pieces. There's one that was written like a female, and the other one was the male, and they were brother and sister or something. I remember the last time I was here. Yeah, I'll let Bob tell the story. So who were they?
Who were they? Well, let me see what they're... There is Eric Ulrich Spoov. He was born in July the 21st of 1775. He died in 1846. And then there was his sister, Maria Helena. What in the heck are your dates, honey? She was born August the 10th, 1768, and she died in 1828. So she died before Eric. Look at that. She died in 1828 and he died in 1846. He lived beyond her. I never paid that much attention before to that.
But you could distinctively tell the difference between their music styles.
Very much so. One is very male and the other one is very female. The female one, I just go into gales of laughter. I think I wouldn't trust that woman from here to, in my interpretation of her music anyway. Is this the one I want? Yeah, here's old Eric.
Okay.
This is big macho Eric. I can just see him moving into the room. Now, the first part of this is very European, very Swedish. Of course, he was Swedish. But the last part of it, no, he jumps into the minor mode and he goes Finn. So forth and so on. You see why I can't play it. But here's Eric and the first part, which is very Swedish. First of all, I haven't played the piano for a long, long time, folks.
Oh, yeah. No, you're doing great.
Secondly, I'll make all these excuses. The osteoarthritis in the fingers is pretty darn painful. But I'm going to do that again for the heck of it.
What about the lady?
Her?
His sister, yeah.
That's even worse. What is one of those that just tickles my funny bone? Is this the one?
It's a different style. Yeah, that's it.
I think that's one. What is it? Now, can't you just, even that, now listen to me Twitter to it, first of all. God almighty, it makes me sick to my stomach. But anyway, here you are, Maria Helena Spoob. I can't play it for you, sorry. No.
No? Okay.
No, I can't play anything.
Okay.
Don't even ask me. I make more mistakes than anything else.
Thank you so much. This is what my cousin's condo building looked like when it was once the first Jewish synagogue in Vancouver. Well, I hope you all enjoyed that little interview with my cousin Bob Poutt in Vancouver. As you can see, I'm back home in Swantilla now. And yeah, that's all I got to say for today. So don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you all in the next video. All right, ciao.